yeah, today we are going to talk about binturongs, which is amazing. So before this animal chat time, we did a lot of, frogs and birds and animals that we kind of had seen before. But today we're talking about an animal I have only seen once in my entire life, which is pretty neat. And I know that Carol has seen one before as well. But a lot of people don't know what a binturong is. The very first time I ever saw a binturong, when I heard about it, someone said it was the cross between like a weasel and a cat and a dragon. That was like, what is this amazing thing? Don't worry, I will tell you all about it. And I'm going to show you some pictures as well later, as we always do. So the mighty binturong is also called a bear cat, but it's not a bear or cat. The reason that it's called a bear cat is because when people first saw it, they were like, is it a bear? Like, it kind of looks like a small, like little climby bear, but it also kind of is like the size of like a very big cat. So maybe that's what it should be. But then the indigenous people in the area that it lives in Southeast Asia, they had a name for it, and that's Binturong. Now, we don't actually know what Binturong means because it's an extinct language at this point, which is actually really cool. So we're using a language that people don't speak. We don't know what it means, but we do know that they are binturongs. A really amazing thing about them is they have a prehensile tail, which means they can like move their tail around, and they use it for climbing and some other stuff I'll tell you about. And their tail, well, their whole body, but their tail especially, smells like buttered popcorn. What? Now, it smells like buttered popcorn because that's where their scent gland is. And to show off to other binturongs that this is their tree, this is where they're living, they will do a little dance, little binturong dance, and they will rub their scent gland against the tree. And there's no really reason why it smells like that. It's just a chemical compound that is the binturong. Smells like what we think is like a movie theater delicious popcorn. I don't know if it would taste as delicious, but that's fine. So where do they live? They live in Southeast Asia. They live in the tops of trees. They love climbing nimbly bimbly around trees. They don't really jump between trees at all. They just do a lot of climbing. And the reason they love to be in the canopy is because they love to be safe up in these trees, and they love to sprawl out on the branches. If you've seen a picture of a binturong, you've probably seen it laying out in the sun, because they love to be up in the tree, protected and safe, but they love to have the sun on their back, and they love to just like lay in the sun and be comfortable, which is pretty nice. So we know that old growth trees and really big trees are important for bats and migratory birds and everything that lives in like the puddles in trees. They're also really important for binturongs. And so something that we keep on learning in Animal Chat Time is how important forests are, and how we have to really protect the forests in our areas and around the world. So they are nocturnal animals, and so during the day they'll kind of like snooze up in the canopy in the sun, and then at night they will go looking for food. Now, a really amazing part, and I say this about every animal, and every part of the animal I'm talking about I think is amazing, but so binturongs, they have these really cool retractable claws, so when they need to, oh my gosh, Field, look at that binturong, that looks amazing. Oh, this is so great. I love when people draw and color and do little Lego creations as well. It's so cool. This is amazing. Now, so they have these retractable claws that they use to walk up the trees. Now, another really cool thing about their feet is their feet can, how do I say this? Rotate. Their feet can rotate all the way around. So when they're walking, and their back feet, so raccoons' feet do this as well. So when they're walking up a tree, their back feet walk up the tree. But when they want to go back down, they'll climb down the tree face first, and their feet are able to move around. So no matter what, they're able to really get their claws in the tree. So they're very, very good at climbing, and that's sort of what they do all day. They don't jump from tree to tree. They'll climb all the way down the old growth and then all the way up the other tree. So they are evolutionarily very equipped to do lots and lots of walking around. Now, when they're in a really deep sleep, they will cover their noses and their face with their tail. So they're very cozy and very adorable. And during the day, when they're having a nice sleep in the sunshine, they will take their prehensile tail that kind of uses, they can use to grip, and they will wrap it around the tree. So they're able to be flopped on a branch, have a little snooze, but their tail is always kind of protecting them, making sure that they're not falling, which is nice. Now their tail, when you guys see pictures, brains are going to explode. They're so big, they're so cute. But their tail is almost as big as their body. So they're about, the body of a binturong is about 84 centimeters, which is 33 inches. But then the tail is about 70 centimeters or 30 inches. So it's like a real big cat with a real big tail that's very fuzzy. They also have amazing long whiskers, which is like very cute as well. And they're very, very sensitive. So these whiskers, when they're going around at night looking for food, their whiskers are able to like let them know if they're getting into a hole that's maybe a bit too small, or if there's, you know, something over here that they should maybe munch on. Now, another really neat thing, like all the animals ever talk about, is they have the teeth and the claws and the digestive system of a carnivore, but they actually eat mostly fruit, which is really, really neat of binturongs. They don't really do a lot of hunting. They're like quite docile little guys. So they will have, like, you know, if they're eating meat, they will have small mammals or earthworms or insects, but they, you know, they eat things that they don't really have to hunt. There's just kind of like, oh, there's a small bug, I'll eat that. But they love fruit. They'll eat tons and tons of fruit. So binturongs in rehabilitative care will have lots of like plantains and figs and oranges and just mangoes and all kinds of things to eat because they love sweet things. So remember when we talked about bats being fruit dispersers, seed dispersers, that they will eat some plants and then they'll fly around and they'll poo some of the seeds out, and the seeds have, or their poo has seeds in it, and their poo is manure. So they can replant a forest. Binturongs are the same way, but the amazing thing about them is there is a fig that is called the strangler fig. And the only animal on the planet, that's wrong, there's two animals on the planet that can eat the strangler fruit and the enzymes in their stomach, because remember, the enzymes that a binturong has, they're kind of like a carnivore, so there's like a lot of acid in there. They're able to, the enzymes are able to break up the outside of the fig. And so the fig will start to germinate in the belly of the binturong, but don't worry, no trees grow in bellies. They do a little bit of breaking, and then when the binturong poos out the seed, then the seed is ready to go, which is pretty interesting. It means that without binturongs, we wouldn't have these strangler figs. So like this specific one amazing animal is the reason we have this amazing fruit that they like so much, which is very nice. Another interesting thing about their poo and pee is that sort of their first line of defense. When a binturong gets scared, it goes like, whoo, and it will pee or poo in the direction of the thing that it's afraid of. Since it's in the canopy, typically that means it's pooing down. So it's not like throwing its poo or pee at anything. It means like, ooh, there's something hanging up the tree, I'm going to have a little pee. Hi. But like I said before, they're pretty docile. They don't really do a lot of fighting or hunting or anything like that. They will stand up on their legs and they'll show their big teeth and their big paws. But that's really just like a threat display, that they're like, look, I'm really big. You should leave me alone. I smell like popcorn, but you don't want to eat me. And most animals will go, ugh, you know what? I don't want to eat you. I'm actually okay. So I think, looking at the time, we should go into pictures in 1 second. I do want to explain the Binturong's tail though, because when you look at pictures, it will make a lot more sense. So like I said, they're prehensile, so it means that they can move them around and they work with their tail. Their tail also they use for communication. And so when they are checking each other out and seeing each other, they'll kind of like sway their tail, sort of like a cat does. But cats do it when they're being like a bit cheeky and maybe like a bit bitey. Binturongs do it when they're like, hey, how's it going? What's happening? They'll like kind of like fluff their tail around. Now their tail does have a little bit of a leathery patch on it, which is almost like another fingerprint, because they do wrap their tail around trees, so they're able to sleep and they're able to walk on different branches. And so that leathery patch helps them like really hang on to the branch and be super comfortable, which is pretty nice. People always want to know the best way to protect animals, how should we help Binturongs, and things like that. And like I said, we need to really make sure that there's forests for them. So we want to have old growth forest in Southeast Asia and around the world. This is where animals really like living. A problem that's happening right now with Binturongs is people see Binturongs and they go, wow, that's so cute. I want to have one as a pet. Binturongs do not like to be pets. They like to hang out in the tree by themselves, solitarily. And so the best thing that we can do if we see a Binturong is not say, I'd like to have one, or say that should be a pet. Because if you say that online, if you say that to friends, like that gets out other places and people go, oh, maybe we should, maybe there is a market for them. So we want to, if you see like a beautiful Binturong, if you see an amazing creature, the best thing to say is like, it is beautiful, it's very cool, it's kind of like a fluffy dragon. I'm happy it lives in the forest where it should live. So let me, I've apparently never done this before. Let me share my screen and I can show you some pictures of Binturongs. This is a picture that I took, so you can see the adorableness that is a Binturong. You can see that it is in an enclosure. This Binturong is hanging out in rehabilitative care in Thailand. It was taken from the jungle because someone wanted it as a pet, and then it was confiscated and it was brought to this rehabilitation center so it can be rehabilitated and brought back to the jungle and it can hang out. So you can see the sun is up, so it's not gonna like go out hunting for fruit or things like that, but it is gonna lay on a branch and soak up the sun. You can see it has like lovely long whiskers, it has beautiful tufts of fur, and you can see its little, its cute little paws. Very nice. Now here is another Binturong that's in a zoo. They're quite hard to get pictures of in the forest because they're so far up, and how do you get a picture of that? And so this is a lovely picture in a zoo in Singapore. So yeah, you can see his lovely whiskers, you can see his ear tufts, his little cute feet, and you can see he's living a pretty happy life in this enclosure, but he'll be way happier when he goes out to the forest. You can see in this enclosure there's also lots and lots of places for him to climb and to sprawl and lay and be in the sun. And then here's a picture from the zoo that also shows off this happy Binturong that has all this green foliage around. It has lots of places to walk, and you can see his fuzzy tail that's looped around, sort of like how you would see like a Virginia opossum or opossums in Australia, but obviously a little bit different. Here is Another, like I said, it's really difficult to get pictures of binturongs in the forest, and we don't want to like bother them by climbing up their trees. And we also don't want to get peed on by climbing up their trees. So a lot of the pictures that we can find are pictures of them in zoos, in rehabilitative care. I really like this picture because it shows off their big claws and how we used to think that they're like, this must be a carnivore, like this animal must hunt and eat tons of little mammals. But then we found out it's just this lovely, gentle, medium giant that really loves eating fruit, which is pretty cute. To show off the size, here's a binturong that's also in care, but you can see how fluffy its tail is and how long the tail is compared to the rest of the little fellow. You can also see its nice little snoot, very boopable. And then this one is just so cute because, again, you can see its fluffy little ear tufts. You can see its lovely whiskers, and you can see how big those paws are and how they're really meant for climbing up and down trees. So they're beautiful, beautiful animals. And it's, you can totally understand how if you were just going through the forest in Southeast Asia and you looked at this animal, you'd think this must be a bear cat. Like this is a cat and a bear. What could this possibly be? It's just a nice friend that likes hanging out in the canopy and eating fruit. These little friends. So those are binturongs. Oh my gosh, these are amazing pictures that you've been drawing and coloring. Excellent work. Wow. So does anyone have questions about the Very nice, Michelle. That's excellent.
Where did you see a binturong and what was it doing?
So the binturong that I saw was in Thailand. I was volunteering at a wildlife rehabilitation center. And so there was all kinds of different animals there. And the binturong that came in was just in care for about 2 weeks because it was taken from people that wanted to have it as a pet. And then it was taken from them, brought to us, made sure that it was healthy again, and then it was released back into the forest. So most of the time when I saw it, it was like hanging out on a tree and having a snooze in the sun, like the picture that I saw, which is pretty cute. Yeah, Cadence, you have a question.
So how do they get the gray and whitish color?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's lots of different reasons that animals are the colors that they are. Because they do live in the tops of trees and because they do a lot of walking around at night, a lot of the color that they have on their fur is so that they are camouflaged when they're sleeping, but also camouflage when they're going, you know, hunting and things like that. So if you think about looking at the tops of trees with all the different like dappled colors and things like that, these little binturongs are really going to be camouflaged with all the bark and everything. So they just don't want to be seen by other animals, so they can get the fruit themselves.
Is the binturong a type of bear?
So that's a good question, and I probably should have answered that. So it's not a type of bear. So you know how we think, you know, so we call like panda bears and koala bears bears. This bear cat is sort of the same thing. It's not a bear at all. We used to think that all animals that had like big old paws were bears, but it's not a bear. It's closer to like a civet, which is kind of like a cat, but it's not a bear at all, which is pretty interesting. They're just kind of their own thing, but that's a good question. I know that you're welcome. I know that Michelle asked if they're found anywhere else in the world, and they're not. They're just found in sort of like the Central to East and then Southeast Asia area. So they kind of have like a large-ish tract. They are a vulnerable species, so they're not endangered yet, but we do need to make sure that there's lots of forest for them. So there can be lots of binturongs around.
Why do binturongs eat fruit?
Oh, why do they eat fruit? Yeah, because they love fruit. It's the same reason that I eat fruit, because it is delicious. Yeah. Yeah, so it's they have found out through evolution, through living their lives for a long time, they really enjoy fruit. And there's a lot of fruit in the jungle in Southeast Asia. So there's tons of it. They don't have to use a lot of energy hunting. They don't have to go out of their way to find different food or like dig stuff up. Fruit's just there. They can eat it. I think there's one more question because you have your hand up.
What do binturongs have seeds in their poop?
So in their poop, they have little seeds of the strangler fig. And so that is, yeah, so their poop is what fertilizes these little tiny seeds. And then that is what plants more of the forest. So there's lots of stuff in their poop, whatever they have eaten, but the really important things that help repopulate the forests are these little strangler fig seeds and other seeds that are in there. It's just good to have lots of fruit seeds.